China and Russia are teaming up together to create a scenario, a higher level of threat to the international society. The Russian CCP Alliance is not rock solid, it's volatile. How far the CCP can go, and will the United States be well prepared for the worst scenario? Hello everyone, welcome to China Insights. I'm Xiangling. In today's program, we will talk about the latest United States intelligence indicate that Vladimir Putin might offer military support to China when Xi Jinping wants to take over Taiwan. And this will clearly put the United States at risk of two front wars with two nuclear powers. So how likely will this happen? In today's program, we're going to make some analysis on this topic. And you may recall in our last week's program regarding Anthony Blinken's visit to China, we clearly pointed out that Xi Jinping has no intention in withdrawing or slowing down his support to Russia. Well, what happened next clearly underscored our analysis. So right after Blinken's visit to China, Putin quickly made a public statement about his planned visit to China in middle of May. Well, this clearly indicating that Biden administration's pressure campaign does not work. At the same time, the Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun met with his Russian counterpart Sergei Shoigu on the sideline meeting of the defense ministers on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And Dong Jun made some strong statement about Russia-China's relations. So Dong Jun was quoted by the TASS news agency saying that, quote, "In the volatile international environment, it is particularly important that the relations between our armed forces maintain a high dynamic and respond to the trends of the time. And our interaction is important for strategic stability on the planet." And Shoigu also said that the friendship between Russia and China continued to develop at a high rate and expanding in all areas. So the Moscow-Beijing military cooperation was essential for enhancing defense capacities and maintaining global regional stabilities. And Shoigu also emphasized that Moscow-Beijing generally agreed on the fundamental issue of the current world order and pressing international problems. So clearly, Russia and China want to set the new definition of world order, very different from the Western standards. So then another question surfaced. So regarding this China-Russian relationship, is it just one-sided support? Only China supporting Russia on the Ukraine war? And so when China want to annex Taiwan, will Putin lend his hand? So a couple of days ago, Bloomberg published a report revealing that the United States Director of National Intelligence, Abraham Haynes, testified at the Senate Armed Services Committee hearing. So in this hearing, Haynes told the senators that United States has seen for the first time that China and Russia held a joint military exercise mimicking the invasion of Taiwan. So the intelligence system actually realized that the Chinese Communist Party definitely hoped that Russia will cooperate with them on the Taiwan issue. So the intelligence agency believed that various United States government agencies need to formulate new plans to deal with the potential situation of joint military operation between China and Russia. So on the hearing, Republican Senator Mike Rounds from South Dakota asked Lieutenant General Jeffrey Cruz, who is the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, about the Pentagon's plan for such a possibility. So General Cruz responded in the affirmative, saying that the United States military must take into account that certainty that Russia and China will cooperate and be prepared in all aspects of military needs. So Senator Rams also made a statement indicating that the bottom line is that basically if we were to have a conflict with one, chances are that we will have a second front, end of quote. So this will clearly, affecting our military planning, equipment, and manpower demands. So Abraham Haynes also affirmed that certainly this is a possibility, and the question is just how likely it is. And he thinks that it differs depending on the scenarios. So overall, the Bloomberg report is not long, but it clearly make it very straightforward that United States may face a two-front war with two nuclear powers. So this is no surprise, considering that China and Russia are friendly in their uncapped cooperations, and Putin might offer support for Xi Jinping's wars in the Taiwan Strait. But the key issue here is how far will Putin go? Will he send military troops? So now the United States intelligence suggests an escalation of the situation, namely that Putin might be directly involved in Xi Jinping's wars on Taiwan, rather than just supporting indirectly, offering just oil, gas, wheat, or other materials, right? And both Abraham Haynes and the DoD has confirmed that it is necessary for United States military to prepare for the worst, as it may have to fight on the two fronts with two nuclear powers. But CCP was clear, staying behind in terms of its support to Russia on the Ukraine war. So, think about this issue. Why Russia has to go in the front to send military troops to engage directly when Xi Jinping wants to take over Taiwan? Russia can take the same strategy. They also stay behind on its support indirectly, right? On its giving their energy, giving their financial support, giving them some agricultural goods. And why Russia have to go in the front? Doing a joint military exercise is a support that Russia can easily implement it without a major international consequence. And also Russia clearly understands that its naval forces is no matching to the power, even to the Japanese self-defense forces, not even mentioning United States aircraft carrier fleets. So Russia would prefer to stay behind without sacrificing its own military force. Why does Russia have to send military force, when Xi Jinping wants to invade Taiwan? And at the same time, Russia does not have full blind faith on the alliance with CCP, because Russia stay alert about CCP its own aggression, especially when CCP also eye on a territory of Russia on the far east of Russia. And this region is called Primorsky Krai. This region borders with China and is on the northeast of North Korea. So what's the history of Primorsky Krai? Why China eye on this region? So this has to go back to the history in the 1860s, when Russian Empire took over this land under an unfair treaty with Qing Dynasty. At the time, Qing Dynasty was struggling with the aggression of international powers. So Russian Empire forcing Qing Dynasty to sign on this treaty. Under this treaty, a vast coastal region, northeast coastal region of China was actually handed to Russian Empire. So that is how a small village in that region, in Chinese name is called Haiseng Wei, was turned into the control by Russia and renamed as Vladivostok. So Vladivostok is right now one of the main cities in the far east region of Russia. It is the culture, economy, scientific, and tourist hub of Far East Russia. And it's also the administrative center for the Far Eastern Federal District of Russia. And it's also the headquarters of the Pacific Fleet of Russia's Navy. So now this region actually become a subject of interest of China, of course, it is a historical stigma on China's history. So when, Chinese government bragging about that they need to focus on reunification of the nation, talk about rejuvenation of the nation, they can put so much resource in the planning of taking over Taiwan. How could they ignore the land of Primorsky cry about this important city, even with a Chinese name, right? The Haisenwei, the Vladivostok, right? So CCP cannot ignore this land. So actually, Chinese President Xi Jinping actually see Primorsky cry as part of the old Chinese territory. So last year in 2023, Xi Jinping actually redefined its border in a new map that claimed part of the India, Malaysia, Philippines, and Taiwan as its new territory. And it also includes part of Russia, including the Primorsky Krai and the Vladivostok, right? So in this new map, the old village of Haisenwei, reclaim, itself, have a comeback, at least graphically, and become a land of China again. Right? So these definitely totally irritate Russia on this important land issue. This claim of neighboring countries' land, or seas, by redefining maps can be coupled with real actions. Let's not forget about China's aggression on the Himalaya regions. Beijing has illegally occupied part of the Bhutan and Nepal, right? In fact, villages in Nepal's Gorkha district have already been occupied by CCP in year 2020. And also, CCP has built 11 structures on the remote border of Humla district of Nepal. So redefining map is not simple. It can couple with real action to grab the lands. So this is just an example how China asserts its dominance, via the so-called rejuvenation of China. So meanwhile, there are also huge financial benefits that CCP aims at for this Russian region, the Far East region of Russia, because this region is very rich in rare earth minerals, reserves of copper, irons, and there are huge resources of oil and gas, mineral deposits, diamond, gold, and also coals, right? So these are critical, to defense, telecommunication, as well as the new energy sectors, right? So these are very important natural resource. It's untapped opportunity for the CCP. That's why, besides try to, brag about taking away the stigma of the historical issues, they actually also try to gain tremendously, financially on this region. So in fact, Chinese government actually allow Chinese farmers to, show up in this region. The Chinese farmers have come back, looking for lands, engaging in large-scale agricultural harvest in this region. They can sell a lot of goods back to China, right? Including soybeans, other crops. So by no mistakes here, these Chinese farmers, they are not seasonal workers, they are actually the movers, shakers for these Russian regions. So of course, the Russians still, own the lands, but these Chinese farmers, they are outcompeting Russian farmers. So naturally, Russian farmers were very upset about the Chinese farmers' activity in their region. So this actually created conflicts in their region. But the surge of Chinese farmers probably will not stop, in a short time, because the northeast of China actually has experienced tremendous financial collapse. So this indicates many Chinese farmers will cross the border, go into Russia in order, to have a hope for a better future. So this influx of Chinese farmers to Russia's Primorsky Krai area, indicating China's internal problem, but also indicating the Chinese government allowing these farmers to be aggressive in that region, try to gain financial benefits, and also aim at the natural resource in that region. So these definitely, is a threat in Russia government's perspective. So basically, my point here is that the Russian CCP alliance is not rock solid. Actually, it's volatile because both parties does not have a value-based trust system, and each party understand that any party can betray the other one, based on the interests of each party, and they can stab each other on the back, and so everyone can betray each other based on their interest. So this kind of alliance is not stable. It's actually volatile. So when CCP sees Russia can divert international pressures for them, CCP will lend support for Russia. When Russia sees CCP can still sending money to them to support them financially, Russia can go out of their ways to support CCP, even in some notorious human rights issues. For example, on May 4th, 2024, one of the district court, it's called the Tushinsky District Court in Moscow, actually ordered a Falun Gong petitioner in Russia. Her name is Natalia Minenkova, to be held for 55 days. And her case is actually pending investigation, and then she can face trial and potential imprisonment simply for practicing and organizing activity of Falun Gong. So regarding this case, the Falun Dafa Information Center Executive Director Levi Brody actually made a statement. He pointed out, quote, by ordering the detention of Ms. Minenkova, Russia joins Communist China as the only other country where a judge has incarcerated a citizen simply for meditating and aspiring to live by Falun Gong's teaching of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. This shameful act further erodes freedoms in Russia and demonstrates Russia's growing and disconcerting ties to China's communist regime. End of quote. So all these shameful actions only further deteriorates Russia's reputation on the global stage. So even some European countries and Southeast Asian countries who are trapped, by the debts, caused by the Belt and Road Initiative, actually they did not have the same, crackdown policy against religious group try to, back up CCP in this front. Because people understand cracking down on religious group is an evil action, not a simple corruption issues. That's why these countries don't even engage on this one. Well, Putin definitely went very far on this topic, which might also clearly indicating that Putin wants CCP's money very badly in order to continue his war against Ukraine. And CCP might fear that they finally got an international partner in cracking down religious freedom. But from another perspective, it was just a cheap favor that Putin can give to Xi Jinping, because it does not cost much financially to launch this kind of crackdown. So this is a very bad move. It probably will tie China and Russia more closely, more tightly in terms of betraying universal values. So definitely it's bad for Russia's reputations globally. And if we back to the topic regarding Russia potential military involvement when Xi Jinping want to annex Taiwan, this might indicating that CCP is gaining additional bargaining chip, to make it more costly for U.S. military to intervene directly in the war on the Taiwan Strait. This may be an additional bargaining chip for the CCPs of area denial strategy. So this may, have significance on military strategies, but the CCP clearly understand the United States does not want a war with two nuclear powers on two fronts. But at the same time, we need to understand that Russia does not want to take the risk as well. They do not want to engage in a war. The U.S. military might use the mighty power of aircraft carrier fleets. So if Russia engage war with U.S. military fleets, definitely they will suffer tremendous loss. So this is not a benefit for Russia's military forces. That's why it might be a simple wishful thinking for CCP to hope that Russia will send military to engage directly in a war in Taiwan Strait. And this is especially true, when Russia is trapped in a war with Ukraine, and Russia does not have additional bandwidth on another front on the Far East region. It's very hard for them to enforce the military in Far East regions. So I believe that Russia is just playing around with CCP, in order to show support, to join this kind of military exercise, mimicking invasion of Taiwan. But I don't think Russia is stupid enough to truly send military troops to Taiwan Strait. So we can do a survey here. If our audience, you think that Russia will really send a military troop to Taiwan, to the Taiwan Strait, engage in the war, you can type A in the comment section. If you do not think so, you can type B. All right. So we just do a simple survey here. Well, at the same time, we also need to be very clear that Xi Jinping has seen a clear weakness in the United States and the NATO forces. Especially from the Ukraine-Russian war, Xi Jinping see that Putin has repeated successful using nuclear blackmails, right? And so Xi Jinping understand the United States and Europe are very cautious not to engage in a major escalation of the war, maybe a potential nuclear war. So they will try all measures, try to avoid further escalation. So Xi Jinping believe, that the United States and Europe and the NATO force will continue to hold back, right, and continue to back down on the issue of, intervening in a war in the Taiwan Strait. To avoid any potential escalation or potential nuclear war, right? So to put it bluntly, it's all acceptable to Xi Jinping if United States and NATO forces continue to, sell military weapons, even sending strategic, like special operation forces to Taiwan, sending military instruction to Taiwan, and sending military equipment to Taiwan. All these are probably acceptable. So Xi Jinping, as long as he can reach a strategic goal. What kind of strategic goal? He basically tried to prevent United States aircraft carrier fleet to engage in the war, because that's the dominant force power the United States military has. So Xi Jinping do not want U.S. military fleets to engage in the Taiwan war, and other indirect support. Xi Jinping can tolerate that, but if United States send aircraft carrier to their region to directly engage the war, China have very little chance of success. So that's why I said the fundamental military strategy for Xi Jinping is to prevent U.S. sending their Pacific Fleet forces to directly intervene in the war when China, try to invade Taiwan. So if he can manage to do that, CCP's military, the PLA, has much higher chance to success in their invasion in Taiwan. I think that's a fundamental military strategy right now. So from this perspective, the joint military exercise with Russia probably is a strategy. China try to team up with Russia to create a scenario there's a potential that Russia can send military to engage in a war with Taiwan. So to create a potential, a scenario that the war can be further escalated, if US or Japan intervene in a war. So it could become a war between Russia-China versus United States and Japan. So this is definitely an escalation of war, right? It could be a trigger of World War III. So China and Russia are teaming up together to create a scenario, create a higher level of threat to the international society so that they can have more bargaining chip on the negotiation tables. Because CCP also understands, the Japanese and United States government, they cared about the casualties. If the war escalated, definitely there will be a risk of mass casualty. For Russia, they already mobilized twice for the war against Ukraine. They don't care the sacrifice of the Russian young people. And CCP never cared about human lives anyway. That's why mass casualty is not an issue for these two countries. But Japan and United States cared about people's lives. So that's why they think if you present a higher risk of escalated war, so both Japan and United States will be more cautious, will have higher chance to hold back, try to avoid a full-blown war, a nuclear war, right? So in another word, for the current being, it doesn't matter whether Russia, have the real potential of sending troops to Taiwan Strait or not. The key issue is to create an image, create a scenario that the risk can be higher. I think that's the fundamental strategy that Xi Jinping wants to take at this moment. So in order to create this scenario, Xi Jinping might even, offer better deals for Russia, in order to get additional favor from Putin, in exchange for Russia's better support. Xi Jinping can sell, more national interest to Taiwan, just like he buying Russia's, oil, gas at a value way above the, regular market values. So Xi Jinping can sacrifice more national interest just to create this additional scenario that could be a major war, between China, Russia versus US and Japan. So, Putin will visit China very soon in middle of May. So, let's watch closely what might unfold in this meeting. So meanwhile, we also understand that Xi Jinping is actually had all our preparation for the war in Taiwan Strait. He actually take major efforts, try to stockpile the gold in a very crazy way. So recently, the British newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, actually published a report revealing that Xi Jinping, has dramatically strengthened his economic ties with pro-communist countries in the last 2 years, and also stockpiled large quantities of oil, natural gases, and food supplies. And very interestingly, he also have a huge stockpile of gold right now. And this is, of course, the currency for war, right? If you stock like piles, you are not too much afraid of international sanctions, right? So how much gold that Xi Jinping has already stockpiled right now? So based on the Daily Telegraph's report, in the past 17 months, the CCP's publicly declared gold reserve alone has soared 17% to nearly 73 million troy ounces, which is currently valued at 170 billion US dollars, right? And there are signs that the CCP is also preparing for a massive purchase of the gold off the grid. So, in a nutshell, the most plausible explanation for such a maneuver is a huge war reserve that is designed to cope with the harsh sanctions against CCP. When CCP invaded Taiwan, the Western countries definitely will impose huge sanctions against CCP. So Xi Jinping is prepared on that. So this article also bluntly pointed out that Xi Jinping dared to take such huge actions to tremendously increase his war reserve in such a dramatic way based on three reasons. First, Xi Jinping feels that he has de facto alliance with Russia, which would give him almost unlimited supply of energy, and the demands of the energy is tremendous, especially when war broke out. And secondly, Xi Jinping sees the weakness of the West, through the Ukraine-Russia wars. He clearly sees the partially effectiveness of the sanctions against Russia. Also Russia can successfully blackmail NATO's and the United States, using its military arsenals. And then third, Xi Jinping, is allied with Iran, North Korea, and other dictatorship. United States and NATO's have to, occupied with quenching the fires, the conflicts in different regions, in different geographical regions, so that they don't have enough focus on the Taiwan Strait. So Xi Jinping is using these allies to divert United States' attention on these regions, so that Xi Jinping can prepare his war, his invasion against Taiwan. So in my opinion, Xi Jinping's recent measures, whether it's soft or hard measures, is basically focused on one central strategy. Xi Jinping is to prepare for the worst scenario. And so even for the upcoming, the third plenary section for the CCP Central Committee, Xi Jinping is not focused on deepening the reforms. On the surface, they claim that they want to deepen the reform economically or even politically, but fundamentally, Xi Jinping wants to focus on his line. He is on his path, and he understands there's no return for his determination of so-called reunification of the country, rejuvenation of the nation. He has prepared for the worst if he take any aggressive actions against Taiwan. So recently, Du Wen, a former CCP official who is an advisor for Hu Chunhua, Hu Chunhua was a former premier of the CCP. So Du Wen actually made a post on the X platform, and he made a clear analysis on the CCP, on Xi Jinping. So let me quote here. So Du Wen said on the X platform that CCP authority had lost the ability to make major political changes or pivots. And Xi Jinping was so clear that the deterioration of the situation was irreversible. Right? And Xi Jinping's series of seemingly contradictory policy measures actually have only one purpose: to plan for the worst. And so Xi Jinping won't change his course. He only asked the whole nation to prepare for the worst. And he mentioned that everybody need to prepare for harsh times, need to make more savings. The CCP officials, the Communist Party members need to learn to live under harsh conditions. The CCP's propaganda machine even mentioned about these, that Xi Jinping want to plan for the worst. He wants the whole country to prepare for the worst. So that's the whole scenario. Xi Jinping does not want to change course. So if Xi Jinping is prepared for the worst, is United States ready for the worst scenario? I think this is the biggest challenge right now. How much do we understand what is the worst scenario? How far the CCP can go? And will United States be well prepared for the worst scenario? All right. So that's all for today's program. Thank you for watching. This is Sean Lin. We'll see you next time.